By the late 1920s, Germany appeared calm to outsiders, but beneath the surface, the nation was rehearsing for something darker. Cafes were full again. Music drifted through Berlin streets. Newspapers spoke of recovery. Foreign diplomats congratulated themselves, believing Europe had stepped back from the edge. To them, Germany was stabilizing. To Germans, it was only pretending. The anger had not vanished. It had learned patience. Then came the moment that shattered the illusion. In 1929, the world's financial system cracked. What began as a stock market collapse in the United States spread like a disease across borders. Banks failed. Credit disappeared. Trade collapsed. For Germany already fragile, this was catastrophic. The loans that had been holding its economy together vanished overnight. Factories shut their gates without warning. Millions lost their jobs in months. Red lines stretched through cities. Fathers stood for hours, staring at the ground, unable to feed their families. Mothers learned how to turn nothing into meals. Children learned hunger as a daily companion. This time, there were no excuses left. Democracy had promised the stability. It delivered despair. People did not debate economic theory in freezing apartments. They felt betrayal again deeper than before. The Republic looked helpless, trapped between foreign creditors and domestic collapse. Emergency laws replaced real leadership. Parliament argued while the nation starved. Fear returned stronger and sharper, and fear always searches for certainty. Political movements that once seemed extreme now sounded practical. Their speeches were simple. Their enemies were clearly named. Their promises were absolute. In a world collapsing into chaos, absolutes felt safe. Another rarely acknowledged truth. Many Germans did not turn radical out of hatred, they turned out of exhaustion. They were tired of instability, tired of humiliation, tired of choosing between bad options. Radical movements offered relief from choice itself. They promised obedience in exchange for order, sacrifice in exchange for meaning, and millions were ready to accept. Elections became referendums on despair. Votes shifted dramatically. Parties that had once been marginal surged forward. Uniforms filled the streets. Again, marches returned not chaotic, but disciplined. Loud, but organized. They projected strength at a time when the state projected weakness. The message was clear. We are ready to rule. Internationally, warning signs were everywhere but ignored. Foreign leaders believed Germany's problems were internal. They trusted treaties, signatures, and paper promises. They underestimated how deeply the Great War had scarred the German psyche. They believed economic recovery would bring moderation. They did not understand that humiliation does not disappear with food alone. Every foreign lecture about responsibility sounded like arrogance. Every reminder of past guilt reopened wounds. The idea that Germany should remain restrained while others ruled the world felt intolerable to a population raised on stories of greatness lost. Another secret lay in how discipline was romanticized. Uniforms were no longer symbols of war, they were symbols of order. Marching feet felt reassuring. Salutes replaced uncertainty. Flags gave people something to belong to. In a broken society, belonging is irresistible. Violence increased, but it was selective. Street clashes were framed as necessary. Opponents were labeled threats to the nation. The line between patriotism and brutality blurred. Many citizens looked away, believing violence was temporary, a price worth paying for stability. Looking away is how disasters grow. Behind closed doors, powerful individuals made calculations. Industrialists feared communism more than extremism. Conservative elites believed they could control radical forces, use their popularity, then restrain them. They thought anger could be borrowed without consequences. History would prove how wrong they were. As unemployment soared past millions, desperation became the loudest voice in the room. Promises of national rebirth drowned out warnings. Doubt was labeled weakness. Questioning was labeled betrayal. And slowly, quietly, legality bent. Emergency powers expanded. Democratic safeguards weakened. Each step was justified as temporary, necessary, sensible. People accepted it because chaos felt worse than control. This is how freedom often ends not with violence, but with relief. Relief that someone else is in charge. Relief that choices are gone. Relief that responsibility is shared. By the early 1930s, Germany stood at a crossroads few recognized as dangerous. One path required patience, compromise, and humility. The other offered pride, strength, and certainty. History shows which path people choose when they are afraid. The world watched elections, speeches, and rallies, believing it was witnessing political drama. It did not understand it was watching the final act of a tragedy rehearsed since 1918. The war had ended more than a decade earlier, but its shadow still ruled Germany's future. And now, that shadow was stretching beyond its borders, unnoticed by those who believed peace was permanent. When the world finally realized what Germany had become, it would be too late to ask how it happened. The answer had been written for years in hunger, in humiliation, and in the silence of those who chose not to look.